This is the perfect RIA, in case you didn't know. Bringing you all the strategies to help your business grow. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Sit back and listen in while you feel the beat, yeah! Another myth bites the dust.
Hello, TBR Nation. This is Amber Kuhn from the Perfect RIA. Thank you for joining me on today's Follow-Up Friday, where I'll be covering the highlights and action items from this week's episodes. Matt and Micah were so excited about this episode and to talk about one of the many things they love, value. Micah started by sharing that he and Matt love to talk about things that are really important in the industry, but also where people may sometimes miss things. They're both really transparent in their practice, but there are people who ask whether what they're sharing actually helps a client. Micah will always assume positive intent. He said, "When I lead with delivering massive value in my mind, I'm always taking the default assumption that whatever I'm doing, I'm engaging in value to my clients." The guys then went into a discussion about something that was brought to their attention recently, which is some people saying that there's too much value. Matt brought up this expression he heard, which is of a value sledgehammer, and that advisors are so obsessed with delivering value that it's a bad thing. He said that if that's what people are thinking, then someone grossly misunderstood what value is, and that it's impossible to deliver too much value. Micah said that you could have failed to deliver value correctly, but he said too much value? He hasn't seen that. He's got a lot of value from people before, and he's never gone to them and said, "This is too much value, you should do less for me." Matt and Micah talked about how you need to be intentional about what value you're delivering. They said that just calling someone to tell them what the market is doing is not value, and that it's also not about just the number of contacts you make. Those must be positive contacts. For Micah, he wants his clients to be so excited when they see his number coming up on the caller ID because they know that call is going to be valuable. Matt's noticed that some advisors get confused on the opposite end of the spectrum, that things on the surface seems to only benefit the advisor. For example, Surge. He's heard others say that it's only for your vacation schedule, but in reality, it's to make sure that you're serving the client in the most efficient and effective way possible. So when looking at whether something is delivering value, Micah will focus on three things. First, it must be unique to the client, but that doesn't mean that it's fully customizable. Second, it has to be something that the client might be dealing with. And then third, it has to have an action item. Matt mentioned another mistake that comes up, which is sending information to clients that doesn't apply to them. You need to filter that information. And he said, value is not noise. Value is almost the opposite of noise. It has to be personalized, actionable advice. Matt added that you can never be dismissive of something that the client brings up either, no matter how outlandish it seems. If you do, it'll destroy that relationship. So instead, you want to be empathetic and acknowledge that and ask the client to tell you more. Value is having this really strong relationship with the client. Matt shared another area where people misunderstand, which is the dishwasher rule. When they bring this up, they want to be very clear about what someone is getting out of the relationship and what they're providing. The client knows what it costs to be a client, so they want it to be clear as to what they're getting for that cost. Matt and Micah wrapped up the episode by talking about how adding value is about you helping someone else. Micah talked about this in his prospect process, and that in those prospect meetings, he is focused on delivering the most value possible, whether that person hires him or not. Matt added that anytime your language is starting with I, you're probably making a mistake, and you're going in focused on what you want and what you need. He said he wants to live his life with a value sledgehammer, and he looks at this as a positive. Lastly, Micah said that this goes beyond financial planning. You need to look at how are you adding value to others and what can you do to make things a better place. Let's get into action items from Monday's episode. First, ignore anyone who doesn't have the practice that you want. And second, ask everyone who has the practice you want how they deliver value now and then model their success. And lastly, get your personal development budget in order. On this week's What Works Wednesday, Micah was joined by Chad Hufford from Veritas Wealth Management in Alaska to talk about client events. Chad shared how he got started about 15 years ago, and that with clients, he looks for people who are coachable, not just those who want better investments, but those who want to become better investors because he wants to have a partnership with them. Chad said that at one point he was so focused on the financial piece that he thought his job was to make sure they didn't run out of money. Now he wants to make sure that his clients don't run out of focus. Chad holds multiple client events throughout the year, and he started building his practice by doing workshops and seminars for prospects. And then he realized that you have to continually empower clients with encouragement and education. And he said sometimes it's telling them the same things over and over again. He said that means getting out in front and creating a coaching environment to actually make them better investors, not just providing them with a product they don't know how to use. He said over time, his content hasn't changed, but that the perspective of the content has changed. Chad said it's really about mindset. So in addition to the events they hold, he'll also send out articles about once a month. He said this isn't canned content. It's something that is always timeless and sometimes timely. So it could be something that's in the news, but they share it as a lesson with their own words, and they want to be that constant source of encouragement. Micah shared what to look for when looking at the content you're sending out to your clients and what you should consider. He said, 1, what direction do you want to steer your clients in? And 2, you want it to be something that you can consistently do. It's all about implementation and being intentional about what you're doing. Micah and Chad talked about estate planning, as well as an estate planning event that Chad held for his clients, where he interviewed an attorney during dinner and created this interactive event. He said it was different than someone just giving them information. He wanted his clients to act on the next steps. Micah and Chad pointed out that doing these events helps them on the prospecting side as well, because it helps build that authority and credibility, and it also humanizes them. Let's get into action items from Wednesday's episode. Go back through your emails from your top clients and look for similarities in their questions, and then start answering those proactively. Make sure that you have a communication policy with your clients so that they understand the best way to communicate with you. And then take the estate planning masterclass and learn how to do a one-page summary so that you can help your clients see what they need to see. On this week's Worlds to Conquer, Jamie dove into 4 questions related to search that we have consistently received from our members or those who've emailed into lifestyle@theperfectra.com. Jamie kicked off our episode with a reminder of what search is, and not only when Shalansky and Associates does search, but her recommendation as to when every advisor should do search. Search is a dedicated time block period in which you're doing nothing except meeting with clients and prospects. The search time Jamie recommends are mid-March through mid-April because it's tax season and you're most likely to get all the information you ask your clients for during this time. Then having mini surges sprinkled throughout the summer, and then another large surge in the fall from mid-October through mid-November. She said this is because as families come together, they start thinking about their legacy and what they're leaving behind. So let's recap the questions and answers from Thursday's episode. First, how do you handle prospects with a surge schedule? Jamie discussed how for a new advisor, they focus on goal setting and goal planning, and they figure out how many clients they want to bring on the next year. She said, if you're not growing, you're dying. So sometimes you need to bring on additional clients, even if you have a full book, because of potential changes. Jamie then went through how they determine how many prospect appointments their advisor should have. And then she'll look at the calendar, and every single time on their calendar is blocked out, either for clients or prospect meetings. She'll check prior statistics to make sure she has client or prospecting blocks to meet the number she's needing to hit. And Jamie made an important point about prospect meetings. Just because someone needs your help, and just because you're able to help someone, it doesn't mean that they should become a client. The second question we received is, what do you do about no-shows or appointments that need to reschedule? Occasionally, she said this does happen, so they make sure that they set up dedicated time on the advisor's calendar to account for this. They'll set up buffer days, maybe 1 or 2, and these are purposely blocked off on this calendar as such, because if not, the relationship managers will see that as time to fill with client and prospect appointments. And Jamie said that you should have someone who's setting up the calendar, and then you should have another person who's auditing that calendar. The third question was, how do you do mini search? At Shalansky and Associates, they dedicate 3 to 4 days once a month over the summertime, primarily in the morning, and they get the clients in who didn't show during the regular search, and then they also set those prospect meetings as well. And this schedule is designed a year in advance. And lastly, what about all that head trash that you have thinking that if you implement surge, your clients will leave? Jamie will write her head trash down on a piece of paper, then walk through the scenarios and possibilities and then start problem solving it. Jamie said, if your advice is good enough for your clients, then why isn't it good enough for you? As a financial advisor, you tend to discredit every piece of advice that you give, and then you fail to take your own advice. She shared an expression that she recently heard, which was that your thoughts are like waves in the ocean. Nothing you can do can stop those thoughts from coming. But if you surf, you have the ability to choose which wave you follow. So with surge and the worry that your clients won't like it and that you're not readily available, she said you need to define with your team what an emergency is. How many times are those emergencies actually happening in your office? When a client onboards with Shalansky & Associates, they're told that they have unlimited access to their team. They make sure that the clients are taken care of, and if something falls outside of that area of expertise or involves financial planning, then that's when they can reach out to the advisor and bring them in. She said this has never been a problem. So you need to make sure that you're setting better expectations. Let's get into action items. So first, we love your questions. So be sure to tag us on social media with your questions or email us at lifestyle@theperfectre.com. If you don't know how many clients you want to onboard this year, you need to back into that math. Look at your closing ratio and make sure you get those prospects on your list. Go through your calendar and make sure that you have open time for client meetings and time for prospects. And whoever is scheduling the calendar shouldn't be auditing the calendar. Then set up mini searches. Work with your team and set these up so that everyone in your office is in these mini searches at the same time. TPR Nation, before I wrap up, I want to remind you about our upcoming Nation Power Session at the end of this month on March 29th. Matt and Michael will be talking about the one big mistake advisors make. Be sure to get signed up today by visiting theperfectre.com, or you can email us at lifestyle@theperfectre.com. That wraps up this week's recap. Thank you for joining me on today's Follow-Up Friday. Be sure to give us 5 stars wherever you're enjoying this podcast and share this or any of our episodes with another advisor or a team member who you think might benefit from listening. And until next time, happy planning.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife.